The case, so this is going to be appealed, I'm sure, but the case against Mahmoud Khalil, can it even be called a case? The State Department has admitted that he's committed no crime. It's not even really a case against Mahmoud Khalil. It's a case against the government for trying to deport him, really. There's no legal, he didn't commit a crime. They've admitted that he's committed no crimes. But they went shopping around for an immigration judge. They pulled him from New York. They went down to Louisiana to shop for an immigration judge who would rule that the State Department has the right to revoke his permanent citizenship status. And that's the lesson, by the way. That's the lesson from this. Like, if you want to move to America, it doesn't matter how much money you have or whether or not you're a legal or illegal immigrant. It doesn't matter if you have a visa. It doesn't matter if you have a green card, like Mahmoud Khalil does still at this moment. If you criticize Israel, it's out the window. That's it. That's like one of the official policy lines for the country now, which is like, if your stay here is conditional, you have to worship Israel. Not even America, which would also be bad and unconstitutional. If they can do shit like that, where does it end? It doesn't. If the government can decide that they can punish you for what are unambiguously expressions of your free speech, of your First Amendment right, they can do it to citizens too. The Constitution applies to everyone in the United States. There's absolutely no legal ambiguity about that. But Trump supporters have been arguing now that, well, no, actually it applies differently to citizens. No, it doesn't. There's no argument for that. The Supreme Court settled that. There's no argument for that. That doesn't make any sense. Why would laws apply? Like, why would the Constitution, the law of the land, not apply unless you're a citizen? It's a law of the land. There are specific privileges afforded to citizens, like the right to vote, but there's nothing in the First Amendment that says, well, if you're a citizen, you have the First Amendment, but if you're not a citizen, you don't. So we have a Zionist-occupied government, in the sense that white Christians control the government currently, yeah. White Christians who use our relationship with Israel as like a bulwark and testing ground for military-industrial complex, investment, yeah. But like, we always did. It was the same back during like Vietnam, right? Same shit happened. Also, Zionist-occupied government is a Nazi dog whistle, to be clear. That's why I made clear that I was referring to Christian Zionists. Back in 2008, Anthony Scalia was on record saying all constitutional rights apply to every person in America, not just citizens. Yeah, this was like, this is a widely accepted fact, obviously. Like, can you imagine the chaos if you could argue as non-citizens that different laws don't apply to you? Like, you get arrested. Oh, no. Well, I'm a citizen, so I'm not a citizen. The law applies differently. Get the other law handbook out. What are you talking about? I don't know. Marco Rubio is so fucking evil, man. Yeah, it's super cool how, like, in the lead up to the inauguration, Trump was bragging about, bringing America home, no more foreign wars. Hillary Clinton is the war candidate. Joe Biden is the war candidate. Everyone's the war candidate but me. And then Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, and his first, like, mission goal is like, well, actually, if you criticize Israel, your rights are invalid. How do the Nazis feel about this? I know the Nazis are like crowing right now because half the people in government agree with them on every issue. How do you guys, like, how do they feel? Like, this is the most cucked we have ever been to Israel. It's incredible how cucked we are. Yeah, sorry, I said you guys. I'm referring to all the neo-Nazis in chat. Rubio is also doing Big Brother shit in government to crack down on anti-Christian bias. Well, yeah, I mean, obviously all of it is just like, how do we do fascism, right? There's no, like, literally all of it on every level, from the military support of Israel to the the defense of their genocide and their apartheid, to the denaturalization of U.S. citizens, to the deportation of legal residents for their First Amendment rights. Like, on every level, all of it just points in the same direction. They're not really contradictory positions, obviously. Supporting Israel is and always has been fascistic, to varying extents, at least in the context of their relationship with Palestinians, more so now than it used to be. Searching immigrants' social media for criticism of Israel is insane. Dude, they're checking your phones at customs coming into the country, whether you're a citizen or not. They're checking your phones to see how you feel about Trump. They're checking your social media to see how you feel about Israel. Marco Rubio has cited a rarely used statute to justify Khalil's deportation, which gives him power to deport those who pose, quote, potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequences for the United States. This is meant to be like if you're hosting foreign spies or something, or people for whom there's like like there's some massive justification, some very specific, pointed problem with their presence here in the country, you know? Like if you don't have an extradition treaty with a different country, but a warlord from there escaped into our country, like, oh, well, we don't want to have the warlord in here, so we'll remove them for that reason. Not just random legal residents who protest against Israel's genocide. I don't know, man. Religion ruins everything. Well, it's not really about religion. It's nothing to do really with religion. It's just fascism, you know? It's not like Trump is a devout Christian or Netanyahu a devout Jew. They're just power-hungry people.
We want to bring in right now ABC News immigration reporter Armando Garcia, live outside court. Armando, I know this is all just coming down and you were just in there. What can you tell us more about this decision?
Look, this is a very, very stunning move that's going to have repercussions for sure for all of the other international students who have been targeted by the Trump administration over their actions and demonstrations that they've been participating in under at campuses all across the country. I'm just looking at my notes here because, as you mentioned, I'm just running out of court right now. But it's really, really important because Judge Jamie Comins has found that Mahmoud Khalil is removable under the Secretary of State Marco Rubio's assertion that his continued presence and his actions in the United States actually compromise foreign policy and political priorities. That's very stunning because that is actually the only thing that she ruled on today. She did not rule on the other allegations that were raised by DHS that he allegedly misrepresented information on his green card application. They said in court that
because those were no doubt like complete lies. Yeah, like that was back when they were still pretending that there was a legal reason to remove him. Then they didn't find a legal reason, so then they had to go with, well, no, yeah, just like we don't have the First Amendment anymore.
House in Gina,
Here we go.
Louisiana. Tell us what the judge is saying in there, Brooke.
Hi, Martha. Yeah, this has been long anticipated and some
The most interesting comment so far was made by our boy JD, in which he simply said lawful permanent residents should be changed into a temporary status and not expect to permanently reside in the U.S. Yeah, I saw that, or something to that effect. I don't remember the exact verbiage. But yeah, essentially, like, lawful permanent residents aren't actually a thing. You're always here temporarily. This is a great way to encourage foreign investment and immigration from high-skill individuals, you know? Incredible stuff, really.
Major news. Just to first give you some perspective, we're down the street from that ICE detention center. The courtroom is inside of there. They didn't allow any phones or cameras. So we're finding out this information from our reporter who's over there down the street. She tells us, as you just mentioned, the immigration judge has found Mahmoud Khalil removable. Khalil's attorneys have until April 23rd to file relief applications. I asked that reporter what the immigration judge was able to say. She cited those DHS papers and said that the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, was able to meet that burden. And again, they have decided that Mahmoud Khalil is removable. The next question, Martha, of course, his attorneys are going to fight this, but how long that process is going to take right now for him to be deported. We'll send it back to you.
All right. Breaking news. Brooke, thank you very much. And with that, we bring in Outkick founder Clay Travis, who's also an attorney and understands this case well, has talked about it quite a bit. So he can be removed. His lawyers can appeal this decision until April 23rd.
If I believe correctly, the ruling is saying literally we have foreign policy relations with Israel, so we can deport you. If it might make Israel not want to have foreign policy relations with us. Yeah, the official argument from the State Department is if you say things that contradict us, we can remove you. That's not an exaggeration. That's not even like an extrapolation of what they've said or like a logical conclusion. That is the textual argument that they are making.
Your thoughts?
Trump keeps winning.
Look,
we wondered how the Resistance 2.0 would come to be. Much of the legacy media has collapsed. Even the Democrat Party doesn't seem to have an aggressive opposition to Trump. It's been the federal district court levels where people have really come after him. But Trump has been winning as those appeals have reached the Supreme Court. This is a big win in the short term for Trump. And I think it...
Yep, correct. What it says is permanent residents are not protected by the First Amendment. No, I disagree. I think that the implication of what has been said here would effectively apply to citizens as well. Like, we're not talking about people who follow the law, right? He invoked the Alien Enemies Act against Tren de Aragua, not a country we're at war at. Like, there's no reason why the logic that applies here could not be applied to citizens. Trump has literally said on camera that he looks forward to sending American citizens down to El Salvador.
Just kind of goes to demonstrate that the judicial system has decided to throw itself athwart the tracks of the Trump train, so to speak, to try to keep him from advancing. And really, much of this is about delay, right? There's this idea, and I think it's real, that next year we've got the midterm elections, the House is up for grabs, and they're trying to do whatever they can to slow the progress of Trump. But so far, when he gets it up to the appellate level, most of the actions of the Trump administration are being found legal. And unlike Joe Biden, who it felt like every time he went to the Supreme Court was getting struck down, Trump is...
This is not true, of course, but I'm not going to waste my time like arguing with this guy. I don't even know who he is. Memo sent from Marco Rubio. This is the argument they made against him. This was the memo justifying his deportation. I'm writing to inform you that upon notification from the Department of Homeland Security's Homeland Security Investigations, on March 7th, I have determined that blank and Mahmoud Khalil are deportable aliens under INA Section 237. I understand that ICE now intends to initiate removal charges against them based on assurances from DHS, ICE, HSI. Under INA Section 237, an alien is deportable from the United States if the Secretary of State has reasonable ground to believe that the alien's presence or activities in the United States would have potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequences for the United States. Under INA Section 237, for cases in which the basis for this determination is the alien's past, current, or expected beliefs, statements, or associations that are otherwise lawful, the Secretary of State must personally determine that the alien's presence or activities would compromise a compelling U.S. foreign policy interest, or subservience to Israel. Pursuant to these authorities, I have determined that the activities and presence of these aliens in the United States would have potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequences and would compromise a compelling U.S. foreign policy interest. These determinations are based on information provided by the DHS/ICE/HSI regarding the participation and roles of blank and Khalil in anti-Semitic protests and disruptive activities which foster a hostile environment for Jewish students in the United States. My determination for blank is also based on blank citations for unlawful activity during these protests. The public actions and continued presence of blank and Khalil in the United States undermine U.S. policy to combat anti-Semitism around the world and in the United States, in addition to efforts to protect Jewish students from harassment and violence in the United States. Consistent with Executive Order 14150, America First Policy Directive to the Secretary of State, the foreign policy of the U.S. champions core American interests and American citizens, and condoning anti-Semitic conduct and disruptive protests in the U.S. would severely undermine that significant foreign policy objective. Cool. Nope. Yep.
Winning a lot.
Yeah, we know Marco Rubio essentially said that in the end, they went with a couple different arguments, but in the end, they arrived at...
So what do they mean by anti-Semitic? We know what they mean by anti-Semitic. It's not really, like, it's not even a point in arguing the ideas here. The administration is run half by neo-Nazis. The Trump EO pardoning J6 protesters pardoned open neo-Nazis. No one is getting deported from the United States because there are neo-Nazis on campus, even though there are people who enter this country and are deeply anti-Semitic. None of that's happening. This is the first time this rule has been invoked in to my knowledge, quite a long time, and the first time it's ever happened in this context, and it's being done against a not anti-Semitic, anti-Israel protester who just wants the genocide of the Palestinian people to stop.
You don't have a right to be in this country. It's a privilege to come here and study. This young man is a green card holder, but this immigration judge is buying the argument that he violated the terms of the green card by participating in anti-Semitic protests. Anti-Semitism is against the rules of this country.
Yeah, just up the road, right, at Columbia, where they completely...
No, it's not. Like, even if we assumed that he was anti-Semitic, which he's not. No, it's not.
Shut down the university, but this happened all over the country, and it's not just about him. It's about sending the message to students who are on campus.
Using him as an example.
You're not going to be able to shut down. Remember UCLA? They wouldn't let Jewish kids walk through the campus.
That's right.
I mean,
that is not true. Not even remotely.
This was crazy.
I think they're denying their ability to go to class, which is discrimination, a form of discrimination, and potentially...
No, it wasn't. I think they're referring to one pro-Zionist hog who was walking around campus with a camera trying to deliberately agitate people and go in to record and berate anti-genocide protesters?
A hate crime
Yes.
to stand in the way because the university has sent them home. It's not safe for you to be here. So they created an unsafe environment on the campus.
Just think what would happen if the KKK showed up on any of these campuses and didn't let black kids go to and from the classrooms.
I can tell you one thing that would happen. They sure as shit would not get in any trouble with the administration. You seen any federal investigation into those neo-Nazis who were protesting in Ohio like a month back? Also, this like literally happens. There are KKK Nazi protests. Federal government doesn't even acknowledge them.
The federal government would show up and they would say this is unacceptable. Jewish kids, like everybody else, have the right to get an education.
Yeah, and you know their argument was free speech. But if your free speech right is stepping on someone else's right to, you know, they paid for their education to walk into a building and go to a class.
An argument a Fox News host would literally never make unless they were defending Israel. A position they would only hold in subservience to our foreign policy goals with Israel. Also, yes, Republican woman makeup. I agree. I agree too. In addition to all the other stuff that that we've talked about, I also think that she's bad at applying her own makeup, and I'm willing to say it, and I'm brave to say it, and a lot of people wouldn't be willing to say it, but I am. We're gonna talk about this a little bit more extensively in a sec because I think it's pretty important and it's kind of deserving of its own little segment chunk there. Let me see if I can find it super duper quick. Super duper quick. Super duper quick. There we go. But predictably, as a consequence of all of the horror stories that have been cropping up lately about people being detained at the border by U.S. Customs, tortured, sent into detention for no reason, having their stuff taken away, being abused by police for, again, literally no reason. It's happened at multiple ports of entry. It's happened to white people. It's happened to non-white people, you know. Tourism into the United States is plummeting. In an unprecedented fashion, it is plummeting. And the crazy thing is, too, it's plummeting at the time that normally it would be spiking back up because winter is over. We're in spring now. The weather's getting nice again. This is usually when people start to travel. But nope, it's cratering from like every country, except we don't have recent data from Iceland, but Iceland has like 250,000 people, and all of them, to my understanding, are woke. Did tourism ever really recover after COVID? Yeah, to an extent, but we're talking year-over-year percentages here. We're not talking absolute numbers. This is relative to the last year. So there's absolutely no ambiguity about what's happening here. This is people not wanting to get their shit yoinked in the United States. And you know what else is going to decline? Student visa applications. Who the would sign up for a student visa or want to become a green card holder here in the United States when they know for a fact that they are a second class, like a second class citizen, effectively, not citizens, but you understand what I mean when I say this. Non-citizens should still be afforded legal privileges. It's a euphemism. Follow with me here. Who can be removed for criticizing Israel. Yes, U.S. Border and Customs agents are searching people's phones without a warrant. So if you ever travel into the United States for any reason, make sure that you have your phone set lock, no thumbprint, no facial ID, with a code that they can't crack, because then they can't get into it. Engage in appropriate precautions. Does that apply to traveling out of the U.S. too? Well, you don't generally interact with customs when leaving the U.S., but it's just good to be careful, right? Who knows? Who knows? There's no law anymore. There are no laws. Laws don't exist. We will follow how things are going with Mahmoud Khalil. But yeah, he's going to appeal. But like, yeah, it's just that's the like official position of the State Department now, which is like, you must be subservient to Israel if you are not a citizen. And that's the policy for now. If you're not a citizen, like, your subservience to Israel is the precondition for your being allowed to stay here.